Right, so in this video, I'm going to be looking at the NWAR5122 POE. So what page is this of the POE document? Let's just have a look. So this is on page 16, page 17, all right? So looking at the POE document on page 17, we can see the following. The POE final part comprises of the following activities. There are 5 activities in total, and they range in marks from 10 marks, from 5 marks to 15 marks. Activity 1 is on part 1 and part 2. Activity 2 is on your ICE activities. You need to write a report. Activity 3 is a network diagram. This might seem familiar to us because we did it in one of the ICE activities as well. Activity 4 is the final solution, which is your presentation, and that we'll go through in a little bit more detail. And then activity 5 is your evaluation, which includes your report plus the rubric that we're going to see just now. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my OneDrive account, and I've got an NWAR folder in my OneDrive account. I'm then going to create a folder for my POE, okay? So I'll create a folder inside here, new folder. And I'll call it NWAR5122 POE, and then I'll give it my student number, ST, whatever my student number is. Okay, so I know exactly now in this NWAR folder, I'm going to be having my POE, all of the 5 activities. So inside this folder now, I'm going to create my first document. Now, what is my first document? It says part 1 and part 2 marked and feedback. If I look at the POE document now, it says activity 1 comprises of task 1. This task is a collection of POE Part 1 activities submitted in the semester. Ensure that you submit or include. A, the marked POE Part 1 shows the final mark and the lecturer's feedback. An updated and corrected POE as per the lecturer's feedback. A brief explanation of what was recommended and how you implemented the recommendations. Task 2 is exactly the same thing for task 2, for part 2 of the POE. Then, if I look at how the marks are being allocated according to the marking rubric, it says the submission of part 1 with the feedback gives me 2 marks. The evidence of the lecturer's feedback has been addressed, evidence that the recommendations were implemented, and report documenting the above. In other words, this can be one document that will tell me what was the, how did you address the feedback and what changes did you make, okay? So in other words, here they say, A, you need to give the marked POE with the lecturer's feedback. Now, what is the lecturer's feedback? The lecturer's feedback is that marking rubric that is given to you when you have an assessment. So in other words, if I go to my RC Learn, and if I look at any one of the marked assessments, so if I choose one of my marked assessments, mine is going to look different to yours. So I'm just going to open up the Grade Center, and I'm going to choose, let's see if the student has got a marked assessment for part 1. Okay, part 1, there's a marked assessment here. So if I look at my attempt that I've submitted already for part 1, if I click here, I can see that I've got my marking rubric that was given to me. So there's my original mark submission, right? It just has ticks on it. And then there's the lecturer's feedback, which is the marking rubric that has been given to you, Okay, so by submitting this thing that has been already marked and then the rubric included, that's 2 marks. All right. So in my POE here, I'm just going to create a couple of documents so you can see exactly what is required. So I'll create a new Word document, and this is going to be activity 1. This is my NWAR POE. So I can even include that NWAR POE activity 1. And this could be part A, which is task 1. But I can say here that this is the marked task 1 with feedback, right? So now also take note of how I'm naming these documents. NWARPOE Part 1 A, which is the marked task 1 with feedback. The next document I can have is, it's also a report, NWAR POE activity 1. This is, what did they say we needed? Updated and corrected POE as per lecturer's feedback, a brief explanation of what was recommended and how you have implemented the recommendations. So updated and corrected POE. That's what you need to say the document is. So here I will go. Activity 1, and then I'll say updated and corrected part 1. Similarly, I'll do exactly the same thing for task 2, right? So task 1 and task 2 of activity 1. So maybe I must also say that this is task 1. Activity task 1, updated and corrected part 1. And let me just rename this one so it's very clear. NWAR POE activity 1, task 1. Marked task 1 with feedback. And I'll do exactly the same now for the next activity 1, task 2. So I'm going to now just copy and paste this one here, and I'll just rename it. So this is activity 1, task 2, updated and corrected part 2. And I'll take out the word copy. And then last document I'm going to have is the marked task 2 with feedback. So I'm just going to copy and paste that one. And then rename it. So this is NWA POE activity 1, task 2. Marked task 2 with feedback. sorry, marked part 2 with feedback. Okay, so for activity 1 now, there's 4 documents that you need. Okay, and one of the document is, the first document is worth 2 marks, the next document is worth 3 marks. Okay, then let's see what's the next part of the POE. So I've got task 1 and task 2. I've got clearly labeled documents so that when I'm marking, I will not miss it. If your documents are not correctly labeled and you've included multiple things in one document, right, I might miss it, right? And then obviously I can't mark it, all right? So to ensure that you get your maximum marks, please follow the guidelines that I'm giving to you here. Activity 2 now is 5 marks for this task. In this task, you're required to select one best ICE activity that you submitted, marked by your lecturer, and returned to you with feedback. Write a short report stating why this is your best ICE task and focus on the knowledge, hard and soft skills that you learned, and you may use the following paragraph headings in your explanation. Submit all 4 ICE tasks and the report addressing the above. Okay, so for 5 marks, what is it that I need to do? So the first thing I need to do is to submit all 4 ICE tasks, and I can copy and paste it into one Word document. So I'm going to label it as activity 2. I go back into my folder and I create a new Word document. And I'm going to call this NWAR POE. And then this is activity 2 now. Activity 2. And what is this? 4 ICE tasks. Okay. Then the next document I need to have here is going to be a new Word document. And in this document, I'm going to say NWAR POE activity 2. And this is going to be ICE task report. ICE task report. And in this report, I'm going to then put all of those questions and answer the questions. So the 2 documents here for activity 2 now is going to be all the 4 ICE tasks. You copy and paste it from RC Learn into this document. And the next one, you write a report with those questions being answered. Okay. So if I look now at the marking rubric, it says describe at least 4 ICE activities and state which of the 4 is your best task. Select one ICE task and explain the selected task. Explain new knowledge. Explain hard and soft skills learned. Okay. So that's the 5 marks that's going to be given for activity 2. The next activity is activity 3. In this task, you're required to draw illustrations of the network. Assume that a virtual solution, the domain is created just as a sample of a larger network. This larger network consists of the following: 4 floors, a ground floor, first floor, second floor, third floor. Each floor consists of the following, which is a dedicated office with a network printer, a dedicated small staff room installed with a projector and 4 spaces for 4 laptops or mobile devices, a lab area consisting of 20 workstations, which is client machines joined to the domain, a shared network copier and printer on each floor. Each floor has access to Wi-Fi with internet connection. The server room and the IT support office are located on the last floor. There is an internet connection on each floor. Based on the following information, network information and the sample virtual machine solution, the domain, complete the following. Plan, design, then draw the floor plan of the office space showing the layout of the network, including servers, workstations, network devices, cabling. Label and show the following, where the following will be located: your hubs, switches, and routers. And then 3, indicate the type of topology of the network. The type of network, whether it's a peer-to-peer or a client server, and then the type of area network. Okay. So topology now is going to include bus, ring, star, right? The type of network, peer-to-peer or client server. The area is going to be which one? LAN, WAN, CAN. Okay. So let's have a look at now at how the mark allocation is done. For the servers, workstations, and network devices, they give us 5 marks. For the plan, design, and draw of the floor plan showing the layout, which includes cables and connections, we get 5 marks. Label the diagram showing the following: the servers, workstations, networking, and cabling, hubs, and switches. In other words, they've given us 5 marks to put the components in the correct place. And now to double click on it and to say it's a switch, it's a router, it's a whatever it is, a wireless access point, to actually put a label on the component, you get 5 marks. For the topology, we get 2 marks. For the network area, we get 2 marks. And the network technology type, we get 1 mark. Okay, and that is going to be divided by 20, and eventually that's going to give us 10 marks. So how to draw my diagram, again, we have done this before. We used online Visio. So let's go and open up Visio. So I'll go to Office. So if I'm not already signed in, I will sign in. I can see my name is appearing here. So I'm signed in. On the left-hand side, I will click on this, and then I'm going to look for an app. Which app am I looking for? Visio. So if it does not appear there, you can always search for it. You can click on all apps, and then you can click here to search, and you can say Visio, V-I-S-I-O. So I click on Visio, and it's going to launch Visio for me. It's going to be a basic network diagram. So I can see there's a basic network diagram. I'm going to click on the basic network diagram. So it's busy loading it for me now. So in my basic network diagram, I can see I've got a couple of components on the left-hand side. So I'm going to go back and look now at my activity 3 and see exactly what is required of me. 4 floors, right? A dedicated office with a network printer. A dedicated small staff room installed with a projector and 4 workspaces for 4 laptops. A lab area consisting of 20 workstations. Okay, then a shared network copier on each floor. So I can see there's 1 office, 1 small staff room, and a lab area. 3 different areas that I need to define. So I'm going to go back to my diagram here, and I'm going to just go to this draw shape diagram, and I'm going to draw a rectangle here for my lab, and then I'm going to have 2 smaller offices. Now, when you've drawn a shape like this, there's the fill that you have here. You can change the fill and the outline. So the outline, I can select, currently it's white. I'm going to make it black so I can see the outline. And I'm going to change the shape fill to nothing so I can see the shape here. Then I'm going to do exactly the same thing again. I'm going to go and draw another, okay, this time I'm going to draw squares. So here, okay, the square is a bit small, but anyway, I'm going to draw a square. I'm going to do exactly the same thing. I'm going to outline it and I'm going to fill. And then I'm going to press the control key on my keyboard, left mouse click, and then I'm going to copy and paste like this. So you can do that, right? If you click on a shape and you press the control and hold it down, and you press the left mouse button, you can drag your shape and it creates a copy for you. So I've got now a floor plan. This one here I know is my lab, and then I've got small offices here. So you need to label these things, right? So there you can see there's a text box. So if I needed to use a text box, I can draw a text box here and I can say that this is my lab. Uh, lab. And then I can say this one here, I can put another text box, and I can say this is a small office. And then here I can also put another text box, and I can call this one the staff room. And then to drag in the shapes now, I will then see, okay, what is present in the lab? I go back here. In the dedicated office, there's a network printer there, right? So in the office, there's a network printer. I'm going to go back and then go and drag across a printer. So can I see a printer here? There's a printer. So there's the small office. There's a printer that needs to go in there. Then next one, it says in the staff room, there's a projector and 4 workspaces for 4 laptops or mobile devices, right? Projector and mobile devices. So staff room here has got laptop. Where's the laptop? Okay, there's laptop here. So laptop in the staff room and then projector. Did I say a projector on the other one? Let's just see. CRT, LCD monitor, tablet. Copier, projector. There's a projector here. Now remember, for each of these, you need to label it because they also gave us marks. So if I just double click on it, it says I can label it as a projector. I can double click on this one. I can label it as a laptop. And I can say this is times 4 because there's 4 laptops or mobile devices. This one is a printer. So it's not just good enough to just drag and drop. You also have to label the components. Then I'm going to go into the next thing, a lab area consisting of 20 workstations or clients joined to the domain. So I'm going to go then and look for the, back to my diagram. And there's workstations now, which is desktop computers. So there's virtual PCs, there's PCs, right? So I can put in maybe 4 of these. And this is going to represent the 20 workstations. And then I will label them as workstations. Workstations. Times 20. Okay, so I have an idea that these are workstations. A shared network copier or a printer on each floor, right? So here I need to have a shared copier or printer. In other words, I can place this now between these different components. Okay, so I get another printer here, and this is going to be a network printer. So I'm going to say network printer. And then I continue. Each floor has access to Wi-Fi with internet connection. So Wi-Fi I need to put in, and internet I need to put in. So I go back, wireless, and then internet. Router. Is there a shape I can use? Okay, I'm just going to use a shape, and I'm going to put this as internet. Right, so the clients are connected to the Wi-Fi, and the Wi-Fi is then going to be connected to, now this one is a router. Router. This one is a wireless access point, WAP. I will also need to have a switch. So I can see there's a switch here. I can put the switch in there, double click on it and label it as a switch. Okay. What else do I need? So in the same way, I'm going to continue now and complete my network diagram. Okay. Then I need to indicate all of these things on my network diagram as well. Let's look at the mark allocation, servers, workstations, and network devices. So I don't have any servers. I need to go and put in a server here. So I go back here and I look for a server. There's a server. I'm going to put in a server, and I'm going to call this Active Directory Server, because Active Directory is the domain server. Okay. Then I go back. So I've got servers, workstations, and I've got network devices. Cables and connections I don't have. So I need to now put in some cables and connections. I can see this is an Ethernet connection. So there's an Ethernet connection, right? So I'll double click on this and I'll label it as Ethernet. And then I would need to then drag and connect these components to each other. All right. So by simply pointing, clicking, and dragging, I'm going to then start making some network connections. So you can drag and then you can connect. These connection points you can move to the correct place. So if it does not look like it's going to the correct place, then you can move it around, or you can just highlight and press the delete key as well, right? So these connectors, you can just move it around, and then it allows you to then move it according to where it should be connected to. All right, so you can just play around with that until you get that correct. What else do I need to do? Servers, workstations, cabling, hubs, switches, topology, right? Network area. So you're going to include all of these things on your network diagram, okay? So the topology here, we said, is what? It's a star topology. So on your network diagram, you're going to include, I'm going to include a text box here. And I'm going to now start typing in my text box, star topology is used. And then you can include a bit of additional information there as well. Then it talks about What's next? Topology network area. Okay. Network area, this is a local area network. Okay. So I'm going to insert another text box here, and I'm going to say network area, colon, LAN. And then I'm going to type local area network. What else are they asking for? Uh, Topology network area and their network technology. This one was client server. Okay. So we are not using peer-to-peer. They said it needs to be a domain-based network. So here we're going to indicate that this is a client server network technology, right? So client server. So you need to include now another text box here. And we're going to say that this is a client server network. Right. So as you can see, as I'm going through the POE document, I'm going backwards and forwards and completing the activities that needs to be done. All right. Once I've completed this diagram, I'm going to go into my POE folder. And this one now is for activity 3. And I'm going to say activity 3 is what? The network diagram. All right. So I'll create a Word document here. Word document. And I'll call it NWAR POE activity 3. And then I'll say that this is network diagram. I'll open up this network diagram. I'll go into my Visio Online. I'll press Control A to select everything. And I'll right click on it and I'll say download as image. It says drawing 7. I'm going to change. Okay, it says it wants to make it a PNG. That's fine. I'm going to say this is my NWAR POE network diagram. So I'm going to save it in my POE document, just POE folder. So NWAR5122 is my POE folder. I'm just going to save it there, and I'm going to insert it into my Word document as well. So I've got actually a backup now. Okay, so I'm going to say insert drawing. Why isn't my insert working? Okay, so you are going to insert it into this diagram, the diagram into the document, right? Drawing 7 is saved here. I'm just going to change that name to NWAR POE, so it's also saved in my OneDrive network diagram. Right, so if I'm looking at my POE now, currently there's the network diagram there. That's a PNG image that it's saved. Let's just open it up. I'm going to open it up with Paint. Okay, and I can see there's my network diagram that has been created, right? So it's one diagram. Uh, okay, so then I'm just going to pause this and then I'm going to start recording again. So I break up the video into two parts. So in this video, we've completed so far activity 1, task 1, activity 1, task 2, activity 2, which was the ICE task, and activity 3, which was your network diagram. Okay, so in the next video, we'll move on to activities 4 and activity 5.